Welcome to Israel Now News. I'm Rebecca Roberts.
And I'm Yochanan El Rome.
In our top story, the 25th Israeli Knesset was sworn in last week, marking a new beginning for politics in the Jewish state. Benjamin Netanyahu has been formally tasked with forming the new Israeli government. The leader of the Likud party began negotiations with party heads to create a stable, right-wing coalition. This will be the sixth government formed and led by Netanyahu, who hailed the privilege of leading Israel and promised a strong, responsible, and dedicated Knesset, which will serve all of the residents of Israel without exception.
The American ambassador to Israel, Tom Nides, has warned that the Biden administration will fight Israeli sovereignty in Judea and Samaria. One of the most important issues for the new Israeli government is the extension of its jurisdiction throughout the Jewish heartland. Unfortunately, the current U.S. administration says it will oppose Israel on this issue. The American diplomat stressed that the United States and most Arab countries are in agreement that Israel should not exercise its sovereignty in the biblical and historical homeland of the Jewish people.
Israeli leaders have slammed the United Nations recommendation that Israel be investigated by the International Criminal Court of Justice at The Hague. Outgoing Prime Minister Yair Lapid said that the Palestinians are using the UN to attack Israel. He said the ICJ probe is a prize to terrorist organizations and the campaign against the Jewish state. Israel's ambassador to the UN, Gilad Erdan, called the measure part of a long line of anti-Israel resolutions, which only purpose is to demonize Israel and exempt the Palestinians from responsibility. Erdan noted that the resolution refers to the Temple Mount by its Arabic name only and attempts to claim that it is occupied Palestinian territory. Mount Moriah, the holiest site in Judaism, is controlled by the Islamic Waqf, which heavily restricts non-Muslim visitation and strictly forbids Jews and Christians from praying there.
The European Union is cracking down on Iranian officials by slapping fresh sanctions against individuals and companies operating in the rogue Islamic Republic. The chief of Iran's Revolutionary Guard, the commanding general of its aerospace force, and an Iranian company producing drones that have been used by Russia in its war against Ukraine are the latest to be punished by the EU. 30 other senior Iranian leaders also face sanctions for their part in the brutal crackdown on protesters in the hardline Islamic country. Just last month, the EU froze assets and nullified visas of other top Iranian commanders and drone manufacturers. It's believed the EU is also investigating the transfer of Iranian ballistic missiles to Russia. The Islamic Republic vowed a firm response to the European Union sanctions.
The United States Federal Bureau of Investigation has announced its decision to hold an independent inquiry into the death of Arab journalist Shireen Abu Akleh. This is a major shift by the Biden administration, which insisted that it would rely on the findings of the Israeli investigation into the incident. Israel's Defense Minister Benny Gantz called the move a big mistake and said that Israel would not allow interference in its internal affairs. He insisted that Israel would stand by the IDF soldiers and that Jerusalem would not cooperate with an external inquiry. The IDF conducted a thorough investigation into the circumstances surrounding the Al Jazeera reporter's death and released their findings to American officials. Akleh was killed in a gun battle in Jenin between Israeli soldiers and Palestinian terrorists. The IDF concluded that she was likely accidentally shot by an Israeli soldier who was returning fire to a position where armed militants shot at him.
The Baltic state of Estonia has announced that it will not vote for United Nations resolutions that condemn Israel. This shift in policy is seen as Estonia's decision to align with the United States, which opposes the vilification of Israel at the UN. Estonia's Foreign Minister Urmas Reinsalu announced that his country's foreign policy had officially changed regarding Israel, and that as a member of the European Union, Estonia would act in accordance with a jointly agreed-upon EU position.
The rogue Islamic Republic has doubled down on its threats against Israel, claiming that its new hypersonic missile can reach Tel Aviv in 400 seconds. A newspaper affiliated with the Revolutionary Guard published a report citing Iranian defense experts who claim the new hypersonic ballistic missile can avoid, then disable most modern defense systems. This would pave the way for Tehran to launch a barrage of drones and rockets against its intended target with little to no resistance.
Christians in Nigeria continue to be persecuted, kidnapped, forcibly converted to Islam, and murdered. Terror groups are wreaking havoc in the country, abducting young girls and forcing them to become child brides to Muslim men. Recent reports claim that more than 4,000 Christians have been slaughtered in the West African nation so far this year, and over 2,300 Christians have been abducted. Now, these numbers are difficult to confirm, but it is well known that the community is under daily attack.
The Jerusalem municipality has released its plans for a new United States embassy complex in the Holy City. 4 years ago, former President Donald Trump made the bold decision to relocate the American embassy from Tel Aviv to the indivisible capital of Jerusalem. Since the move, the diplomatic mission has been operating out of the former consulate in the Talpiot neighborhood, while plans for the massive compound are finalized. Jerusalem's Planning and Building Committee announced that the new embassy will be built on the former Allenby military base. The complex will house the embassy buildings, offices, residences for embassy staff, security facilities, and a parking structure. Fleur Hassam Nahom, the deputy mayor of Jerusalem, praised the progress on the project and said that it was the result of 4 years of hard work with the U.S. mission.
Israel's National Security Council has warned Israeli citizens against travel to Turkey after a blast in Istanbul killed 6 people and left 81 injured. Israelis visiting the country at the time of the attack were advised to stay in their hotel rooms until officials could assess the situation and plan an extraction if necessary. This past June, the Israeli Mossad thwarted 3 attempted Iranian terror attacks against Israelis in Istanbul. The intelligence agency intervened, gathering Israelis who were likely targets of the terrorists from the local bazaar and their hotels at the last possible moment. The security agency chartered a private flight and whisked the Israeli citizens back to Israel.
Israeli archaeologists have deciphered what could be the earliest Canaanite sentence. In 2016, excavators discovered an ancient ivory lice comb at Tel Lachish in central Israel. The artifact dates to the 17th century before the Common Era, 4 centuries before Israelite settlement in the land. The writing on the comb had degraded so much that it was indecipherable, but the use of photo technology helped enhance the script, and researchers recently translated the inscription. Dr. Daniel Vainstub, a leading epigrapher, explained that the comb's inscription is written in the style that characterized the very earliest stage of the Canaanite alphabet's development. It contains 17 pictographic letters, which form 7 words. The excavation director, Professor Yosef Garfinkel, praised the finds, calling it a landmark in the history of the human ability to write. He said the inscription is direct evidence for the use of the alphabet in daily activities 3,700 years ago.
The current and former American ambassadors to Israel have announced that they will jointly lead the International March of the Living next year. Tom Nides and David Friedman will head a group of people from around the world walking from Auschwitz to the Birkenau death camp in Poland. The group will then travel to Israel on an educational program to examine the roots of prejudice, intolerance, and hatred. The march takes place on Israel's Holocaust Remembrance Day, which falls on April 18th next year.
The Israel Allies Foundation will hold a formal relaunch ceremony for its parliamentary Israel Allies Caucus in the 44th Canadian government. Member of Parliament Dr. Lesley-Ann Lewis from the Conservative Party will chair the Israel Allies Caucus, which is one of 50 caucuses in governments around the world. She praised the cooperation, saying that Canada's friendship with Israel is one of its most important international alliances. She said that she is committed to working with her colleagues to strengthen the bonds between Canada and Israel. Lewis said that the Canadian Parliamentary Israel Allies Caucus is planning a delegation to Israel to meet with members of Knesset in person. Josh Reinstein, the director of the Israel Allies Foundation, said the IAF continues to reinvigorate and strengthen on the basis of legislators who believe in Israel's right to exist within secure borders. He celebrated the relaunching of the Canadian Parliamentary Israel Allies Caucus with great enthusiasm and said he looks forward to continued strengthening of ties between Canada and Israel.
An Israeli climate technologies platform has launched an initiative to help African nations combat desertification. The project, which is in partnership with the United Nations, is aimed at rehabilitating over 385,000 square miles of degraded land between the Sahara Desert and Savannah. It will generate millions of jobs in one of the poorest regions on Earth. Desert Tech works with lawmakers, tech companies, investors, universities, and researchers to develop technologies to fight a drying climate. It plans to turn Israel's Negev Desert into a global hub for desert technologies and work with other nations to combat the threat of desertification. We are living in mysterious yet miraculous times. We've witnessed the most remarkable fulfillment of biblical prophecy, the Jewish people's return to Israel, and the prosperity and contributions of this tiny country in such a short time. Yet we've also seen an unexpected rise in anti-Semitism, which takes the form of anti-Zionism and alliances between groups that are fighting against the most fundamental biblical values. In the book Titus, Trump, and the Triumph of Israel, Josh Reinstein answers important questions to clarify what has driven political action from the time that the Roman Emperor Titus destroyed Jerusalem until today, when President Trump recognized Jerusalem as Israel's capital. Get your copy today and learn how faith-based diplomacy has changed the world. To order your advance copy, go to triumphofisrael.com.
That concludes the news portion of our show. Stay tuned for Ask the Source with Josh Reinstein.
Hello and welcome to Ask the Source. I'm your host Josh Reinstein and we're here on location at the beautiful Waldorf Astoria in Jerusalem. My guest today is Bishop Robert Stearns. He's the founder of Eagle's Wings Ministries. Bishop Stearns, thanks for being on the show.
Josh, great to see you again.
Tell our viewers about Eagle's Wings Ministries.
You know, for the past 30 years, Eagle's Wings has endeavored to serve as a living bridge between the global Christian community and the Jewish people and the state of Israel. We believe that Christians understanding the Jewish roots of our faith and manifesting that in support for the Jewish people worldwide and specifically support for the state of Israel is so vitally important.
Your name has become synonymous here in Israel with Judeo-Christian relations. I don't think there's a leader in Israel that doesn't know what you're up to. And it's because of three main initiatives, and one of them is the International Day of Prayer for the Peace of Jerusalem. Tell us about that.
You know, we started in 2004. Pastor Jack Hayford and I co-founded the Day of Prayer for the Peace of Jerusalem with a belief that if one Sunday a year we could get the attention of the global church to remember core scriptures like Psalm 122:6, pray for the peace of Jerusalem, may they prosper who love you, causing people to understand that Jerusalem is not a concept, it's not a metaphor, it's a real place. And we as Christians need to have a part of our heart linked to and beating with the heartbeat of Jerusalem. Since we launched in 2004, we now have literally millions of people around the world who participate in about 179 nations. Our materials in 39 languages, and it's broadcast all around the world every year. We've had you as our guest many times. So we're excited and encouraged that focus on Jerusalem is growing in the Christian world.
Another big program that you do is Watchmen on the Wall. Tell our viewers, what is that program all about?
You know, evangelical Christians in particular are sometimes very unaware of the painful past of Christian anti-Semitism. we don't really connect to the Crusades or the Inquisition or even more modern anti-Semitism because it's not been a part of evangelical background. Nevertheless, if we bear the name of Jesus, if we are believers in Jesus, we have a responsibility to act in repentance for the anti-Semitism that has happened under the Christian banner. So the Watchman on the Wall program seeks to educate Christians in a much more in-depth way on the Christian anti-Semitism of the past, the myths surrounding Israel and the Palestinian conflict, and how we today can be strong Shomrei HaChomot, watchmen on the walls of Zion. What is it for us as non-Jews to take up standing in defense of Israel and the Jewish people?
And the third initiative, and probably equally as important as the first two, is you were one of the first leaders to bring Christian college students to Israel. Tell us why that's important.
We've grown that even farther now to also bring young pastors. But what we found is that for so many people, Christians in particular, a trip to Israel was a bucket list item, right? But they might wait till they're in their 50s, they're in their 60s, and they miss the whole impact of what being here could mean to their life. For college students, fighting anti-Semitism on university campuses, lifting their voice against anti-Semitism in their line of work. For pastors, preaching sermons that are so much more forceful and real because they've been here and had this firsthand experience. So we've scholarshiped college students from 105 universities across the nation, and now we've brought close to 500 pastors from all over America, Canada, 8 different nations, believing that we're passing that seed on to the next generation of standing on behalf of Israel.
You've done a lot for tourism. You bring groups all the time. We're here at the elegant Waldorf Astoria in Jerusalem. It's magnificent, but it's also completely packed out. In fact, every hotel is. What's going on in Jerusalem right now?
It's true. Well, by the way, the Waldorf is, it's just a gorgeous hotel. I've had the privilege of staying here several times, and it's just first rate. But absolutely, I've been amazed just to see post-COVID tourism just absolutely exploding back in Israel. And I would tell our viewers today, get on a plane and get here. Every Christian in the world needs to purpose in their heart at least once. You've got to come and you've got to connect to this land in a real way. Once you come, you'll come back because Israel has that impact on you. But I've had the privilege, I've brought literally probably now close to 30,000 people on our tour since 1994. And I've heard thousands upon thousands of times, this trip completely changed my life. And so I encourage people to take that journey.
You were at one of the first meetings in 2004 of the Knesset Christian Allies Caucus, and you told the members of Knesset and the speaker that we really need to invest our time in working with Christian leaders, and that will bring a new wave of support. And today we see that faith-based diplomacy is the most important weapon we have in our diplomatic arsenal. Why did you foresee that so long ago, that it's Christians, not countries, that were going to stand with Israel?
I really believe that culture follows belief systems. What people really believe in their personal life manifests in culture in so many real ways. And so we can try to do things through bureaucracy. We can try to do things in that way first. But I think that grows out of what happens in the grassroots level. That grows out of what happens in synagogues and churches and as families gather together. And so it has been just such an honor to walk alongside you and the Caucus all these years and to see those dreams that we talked about all those years ago manifest now in a global reality that is truly imprinting global geopolitical policy.
You're right. There's clearly a new relationship between Jews and Christians in the 21st century. But what's the future of that relationship?
On one hand, the relationship has never been stronger. It's unprecedented, the kind of connection and the kind of strong bond that has been born. It's amazing. At the same time, when you look at the younger generation and the lack of biblical literacy, the social justice mantra that kind of comes through modern culture, it's more important than ever to get young people here to Israel to help them understand the facts on the ground. So we have to keep doing what we're doing and do it strong.
There's this rumor that we're losing the battle for the next generation. Yet for Christians and Jews, there's nothing more exciting if you're young and you believe in the Bible than the state of Israel. So how do we bridge that challenge?
Honestly, get people to Israel. I mean, I would talk to parents and grandparents and say, you know, don't take them to Disney, don't take them on the Carnival cruise, get them to Israel. There is something completely transformative. They get rooted in the Bible, they get rooted in an understanding of history, they get rooted in an understanding of the modern world and the threat of Iran, the threat of despotic religious tyrannies like this. They understand things in such a stronger way when they're here on the ground. And so, yeah, I am, in the midst of the challenges, I am overall encouraged because we do more and more see young people coming. Right as we're sitting here, I have a group of 30 millennial pastors here, and their minds are being blown. They're already talking about bringing groups back. And so we see that coming to Israel is a transformative journey.
Bishop Stearns, there are literally tens of millions of people watching this show. What message do you have for our viewing audience?
I want to encourage you today. Jerusalem is not a metaphor. Israel, Zion is not just a concept. It's a real place, and you have a living faith connection to this place. So I want to encourage you once a day, as you utter your prayers, just say, and I pray for the peace of Jerusalem, and watch God turn on light bulbs in your heart and in your spirit, and watch that make a difference for your family and the generations to come.
Thank you, Bishop Stearns, for being on the show, and thank you for tuning in to Ask the Source. I'm Josh Reinstein here on location at the beautiful Waldorf Astoria in Jerusalem. Now back to the studio.
Up next, the return to Zion with Karen Hayesod.
Shalom, and welcome to the Return to Zion with Karen Hayesod. I'm Sam Grunberg, World Chairman of Karen Hayesod United Israel Appeal, the leading official fundraising organization for the State of Israel. Due to the rise of anti-Semitism, the Jews of France are coming to Israel like never before. You will now witness the fulfillment of biblical prophecy. God bless you from Jerusalem.
Bring my sons from afar and my daughters from the ends of the earth.
Both the departure from France and the reception at Ben Gurion Airport were colorful and festive events, full of hope for the future. The reception at Ben Gurion had the feel of a homecoming celebration, with flags and greetings, designed to convey to the Olim that they have come home and that everything possible would be done to guarantee a promising future for them and their children, and to ease their absorption. It began with the receiving Israeli ID cards already at the airport, and will continue with the help of a special program designed to streamline the bureaucratic process in the fields of employment, education, and housing.
אתם 206 עולים חדשים, אבל תחשבו כל אחד מכם סוגר מעגל של 2000 שנה. עשרות דורות של סבים וסבתות שלכם התפללו, לחמו, חלמו, ואתם עשיתם את זה.
אתם זוכרים, לפני שבועיים היינו בפריז, נפגשנו שם. נתן שירנסקי, אני, מודי זנדברג וכולם. ומה אמרנו? אנחנו נקבל אתכם בבית. הבית משותף של כולנו, מדינת ישראל.
אני רוצה לברך אתכם בשם משפחת קרן היסוד העולמית. זה רגע מרגש עבורכם וגם עבורנו. המדינה הזאת שייכת לכולנו. לא משנה איפה אתה גר, כחלק מהעם היהודי, ישראל היא המולדת שלך. קרן היסוד מגייסת תרומות, ויחד עם הסוכנות היהודית, השותפה שלנו, ומשרד הקליטה, אנחנו עוזרים לחלום הציוני להתגשם.
The Jewish community of France is the largest in Europe, numbering 500,000 Jews.
On est des vrais sionistes, on adore Israël et que c'est pas par peur ou voilà, c'est vraiment par envie parce qu'on avait envie de vivre ici, on avait envie de vivre en Israël.
Je suis très émue et je réalise pas. J'ai du mal à réaliser parce qu'on prépare préparé ça depuis des années et des années.
Beaucoup de joie, une très très grande émotion. J'ai énormément les larmes aux yeux et j'espère que tout le monde pourra réaliser ce rêve un jour.
Un projet de vie, ça fait depuis qu'on est mariés, c'était notre projet de monter en Israël.
Je trouve que c'est très impressionnant d'arriver dans un nouveau pays dans lequel on se dit on va arriver, on connaît entre guillemets personne, seul, et au final c'est impressionnant, parce qu'on n'est pas seul et c'est vraiment, c'est beau. Il n'y a que Israël pour faire ça, c'est vraiment, voilà.
Mesdames et messieurs, le Premier ministre de l'État d'Israël, M. Bibi Netanyahu.
Bonjour tout le monde, bienvenue en Israël. יש פה קהילה מפוארת של יהודים שעלו מצרפת, הם יחבקו אתכם ויקבלו אתכם, אבל כל העם יקבל אתכם. אנחנו אוהבים אתכם, אנחנו מעריכים את המעשה הציוני שעשיתם, שהוא גם מעשה אישי. הוא מעשה אישי גדול ומעשה לאומי גדול.
Let's bless Israel together.
The biblical prophecy is unfolding right before our very eyes. The people of Israel are returning to the Promised Land after 2,000 years of exile. But millions of Jews are still longing to come home. Bless Israel by supporting Keren HaYesod United Israel Appeal, the leading official fundraising organization for the State of Israel. Together, we can fulfill the prophecy of the Bible.
Let's bless Israel together.
To donate and get information, visit khisrael.org.
The Israel Allies Foundation is one of the most important pro-Israel organizations in the United States and around the world. Thanks to the Israel Allies Foundation, its parliamentary caucuses, and our Christian friends and partners around the world, the bond between our faiths has never been stronger.
I just want to begin by saying thank you to the Israel Allies Foundation for bringing us together from near and far to say with one voice, America stands with Israel.
The Israel Allies Foundation is ensuring a better future for Israel, America, and the rest of the world.
Thank you all for being Israel's allies.
That's all for this edition of Israel Now News. I'm Rebecca Roberts.
And I'm Yochanan Elron, reporting from our studio in Jerusalem. Join us again next week for all of your Israel updates.